All right. And good day, my mighty companions, and welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles. Hi, my name is Oliver, and I am going to be your host for today, your temporary guide, your temporary coach. And I am so delighted that you are here. I am so delighted that this space has been created for all of us. And I'm just happy and grateful that um, we get to sit, we get to abide in this ocean of love that is everywhere, because love is indeed everywhere. And today we're going to be looking at Workbook Lesson 257, which is a somewhat of a continuation of the idea from Workbook Lesson 256. And so just sit back and relax, and let's give ourselves some self-love, some self-care. Let's lay our mind open, at this altar of love that we have come to. uh, Love is looking for a landing space, and we have said yes. Yes, you can land your infinite nature. You can land all the essence of love right here in my mind, that I have totally given over to the will of God. It's just a choice that one makes. And when we make that choice, it doesn't seem like our mind is in harmony with all what the Course is saying. But this is a transformational process that we're going through. It didn't say that you renew the mind one time. It says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing. That word renewing means a continuous renewing, an ongoing awareness, an ongoing, continuous saying of yes, a continuous welcoming and inviting that which is true and true always. So renewing is a continuous. So we come daily, in every moment. As long as we're in this sphere, right? As long as we're in this space, right, where we are aware, number one, of our true identity, but we're also aware that we have awakened up in this dreamlike world that appears to have limitations and separation and all of the trappings and all of the distractions to who we really are. And so as long as we are here having an impact, as long as we are here fulfilling our purpose and our function of being the light of the world, we have to continuously remind ourselves of who we are, of the reality. And so it is an ongoing, every moment by moment awareness. And so it takes discipline, it takes vigilance to become a master of the mind. In the business world, they call it the mastermind group, where a group of businessmen get together and they share ideas, and they come up with new and different, more effective ways of adding value into the marketplace. Called the mastermind group. Well, You are a mastermind within your own self. In fact, this course, which is called A Course in Miracles, could be renamed A Course in Masterminds or the Mastermind. And we have the greatest example of one who mastered the mind, and so he mastered life. His name was Jesus of Nazareth. He was a man. He was a human just like you and me. He had to go through the same renewing of the mind, the same transformation that we're going through. So how do you think we are going to get through here without realizing that, there is a right way of doing things. There's a right way of being. There's a right way of thinking. There's a right way of perceiving. And that's what transformation is all about. You cannot escape transformation. Everyone goes through transformation. Some of us get stuck along the process, but we're going through. You're going through. It's like the baby that is about to be born, and the mother is holding on and saying, "No, this is difficult." The baby is coming. The baby is going to come. It can come with ease, or it can come with pain, depending on the restrictions, or when the parent, or when the delivering mother gets in harmony with the contractions, then it is a poop. It's a poop. It makes it easy. But when we restrict or when we resist, that's where the pain comes in. When we resist the truth, the result is pain and suffering. And when we delay, because we can only delay transformation, it's going to happen. It's just like this earthly body. Eventually, it's going to lay down. Eventually, it's going to, come to the end of its usefulness. It's going to happen. Like they say, there's two things sure. Taxes and death? But they're not even sure. They're only an experience. It's not reality. Listen, we have died 1,000 lifetimes. We have lived 1,000 lifetimes. We only can remember the one that we're in. And that's the only one that's really, needful. Why? Because now is only the time that you can do anything about it. So let's just have some fun with this thing. Hey, let's not take this thing too serious. Life is simple. It's not complicated. God is simple. God is not complicated. God is so simple. He said, what? Love. I mean, he don't have a long resume. God said, love. God is love. That's it. Or like we learned on yesterday, he said, God is, and we cease to speak. Or I am, and we close our mouth. Think about what I am is before we say anything. I am that I am. There you go. It get a little longer. And so today's message, today's idea, these are not messages that I'm creating. These are just commentary that I'm doing on these lessons to help you and help me and to produce in something where when others get ready for this, this level of thinking, it's right there. It's right there on Truly Foundation YouTube channel. Just go and get it. And so today's idea, 257, workbook lesson 257 says, let me or allow me to remember what my purpose is. It's like you talk to yourself. Do you ever talk to yourself? Do you know that talking to yourself is very healthy? It's very healthy. People that are afraid to talk to themselves, it's because they don't know who they are. Or they're afraid of themselves. They're afraid of what they think about themselves. Their self-image about themselves is not in alignment, not in harmony with their true self, the real you who loves you. but talking to yourself is very healthy. So just get free with it. I do it all the time. I love talking to myself. Why? Because I love me. I love me. Why? Because I understand that to love me is to love you, and to love you is to love God. And so it's all about what? It's all about love. There was a song made by uh, Earth, Wind, and Fire, one of my favorite groups. Everyone has heard that name. Great group. And one of the songs, uh, Philip Bailey sings in his falsetto, his great falsetto, and he said it's all about love. And he just keeps saying it's all about love. and that's true. It is all about love. Why? Because it's all about God. And it's all about you and all about me. Some people say, well, no, it's all about the money. Well, you try that and see if you like it. You'll like it for a while. But there's a greater experience to be had that includes money. That includes everything. Everything is included. In love, there's nothing missing. In love, there's nothing broken. There's no lack. There's no scarcity. There's no depression. There's no anxiety. There's only love. And who don't want love? And so here, like the Course says, we teach love only. Why? Because this is who we are. This is who you are. You love thing, you. Tell yourself that today. I am love. And so are you. So today's lesson is let me remember what my purpose is. Let me remember. Jesus made a very notable statement to his followers, to his disciples or disciplined ones, the people that he was mentoring. Jesus was the greatest coach that ever lived. And then he shared all these principles with everyone and said, hey, these are the principles of how to master life, how to master oneself. And he said to the disciplined ones one day, after they had come together and fellowshiped and he had washed their feet, which was just symbolic. You don't have to go out and wash people's feet, but it's just symbolic of, or it was symbolizing the oneness that we all share. It was symbolizing the one life, the one love that we all share, the one being that we all share with one another and with God. He was sharing the importance of valuing your life, valuing one another. That act of washing feet, he was adding value. Not a value that they didn't have, but he was bringing them to an awareness of the intrinsic value that they are, because value is intrinsic. You don't build value. You give the value that is already present. Great business minds understand this. Successful business people understand this. You don't create value as though value has to come from somewhere. No, value is already present. Everything is already present. Why? Because the presence of God is everywhere. It just needs to be put in a form that is helpful to you. This cell phone here, that is one of the most powerful things that we all get to benefit from. The knowledge and awareness of this idea was already there. It was always present. There had to be someone that just took the idea, and once they took the idea and moved into the direction of the ideal that they had, then everything that they could ever need to bring it into fruition began to move towards them. That's how it works. That is how it works. When you begin to move in the direction of an idea, especially if it's a God idea, everything that is needed, which is already present, begin to move in your direction in the form whatever is needful, in the form of materials or substance or knowledge, support, people, whatever is needed, it begins to move towards you. Just think, you are sitting in this ocean of infinite intelligence that is everywhere present, always been there. Always been there. You've always been the real you. You've always been what God is. You've always been this infinite, impersonal, and self-aware being, just like God. That is great news. The only thing that was missing was the recognition of that. That's it. The Course says that. The Course says that enlightenment is but a recognition. It's not a change. People say, oh, there need to be changes in your life. There need to be changes, change. No, there only need to be a recognition. And when there's a recognition of what's already present, everything changes. You don't go after the change, but you go after the recognition. You go after the expanded awareness. Wow. And so, he was the greatest coach that ever lived. He was the greatest marketer that ever lived. He had the greatest service or the greatest product or the greatest idea that ever lived. And you say, Oliver, what was it? What was he selling? What did he make? What did he leave? He had the truth. In fact, he didn't have the truth. He said, I am the truth. And likewise, you and me, we don't have the truth. We are the truth. Because like we said on yesterday, there's only the one. God is, and there is nothing else. And so if God is, and there is nothing else, and I have a consciousness and an awareness that I'm alive and that I exist, that means that we're all part of that God is. So there's nothing to sell. But it's everything to be who we are and be the expression of who we are. The expression of who we are is the marketing. When we be ourselves, our true self, the real you, that's the greatest marketing that you could ever fathom. And so let us remember what our purpose is. So it is Jesus said, I forgot to say what he said, but he said, do this in remembrance of me. Do what? Was he talking about eating the bread and drinking the wine? No, it wasn't what he was talking about. Jesus is a metaphysic. He's a metaphysics. He's the greatest metaphysics to ever live. He was always sharing beyond the physical. What he was talking about was always leap years, leap frequencies above our natural thinking. So he always related to what he was doing to what he was sharing in the sense of the idea. We get caught up in what he was sharing. We get caught up in the form, and then we want to make a religion out of it, or we want to make a shrine out of it. We want to build an altar. Jesus stepped here. Let's build an altar. No, that is not what Jesus, the great marketer, the great the greatest man, the greatest service. The greatest product. That's not what he was wanting us to focus on. He wanted us to focus on the value. He wanted us to focus on the oneness that we share. So he said, do this in remembrance of me. He wasn't talking about him personally, but in remembrance of the idea that he was sharing, in remembrance of the value that he was bringing us into awareness of, that we should remember, or we are to recognize who we are in our identity, which is priceless. But it's all encompassing. Our identity encompasses all things. And so he said, remember this. He said, let me remember who I am. So always talking about identity. When God's talking, he always talking about your identity. When that still small voice that you hear, ultimately he's talking about who you are. Just like he, just think about it. Here's the example. Everybody know the story of the garden story. They call it creation story. And it said that God would come in the cool of the day to visit that which he had created, that which he had extended. He said, in the cool of the day. So God loved coolness. God was the coolest guy you ever will know. He come in the cool of the day. And he was cool too. Cool talking. And he spoke to his creation. He said, Adam, where are you? In other words, he would say, Adam, who are you? He was checking in with Adam to see, to hear Adam affirm his value, to hear Adam to hear Adam, and to know that Adam is not confused about who he is. Adam, where are you? And then, the story goes, as the story goes, okay, he says, Adam hid himself. Adam hid himself and said, I was naked and I was afraid. In other words, Adam said, I've been stripped of my identity. And now I'm in fear because I don't recognize this person. It's not the peaceful person that I knew. I'm aware of something else, and it can't be real. Oh my God. Oh my God. God has such a sense of humor. Love has such a sense of humor. We're too serious, guys and girls. We're too serious. And the Course said that the problem came in when we took the idea of separation seriously. And it caused us not to remember who we were. It created confusion and chaos. And we've been trying to we've been trying, because we tried and it didn't work. But God has been waiting, like the father of the prodigal son. God's been waiting from that very moment that Adam said that Adam hid himself. God wants us to come on back out. God wants us to come out and come home. No longer be the runaway child running wild, but he said, come back home where you belong. So today's exercise, today's idea is what? Come on home. Let us remember where home is and what our purpose is. So to remember, what we want to remember is what the purpose. And what does purpose mean? It says purpose is the reason for which something is created. What is the reason for what you are what you have? Let me slow down because I'm all excited. I got my euphoria on. Euphoria means what? Intense excitement and happiness. So I am intently excited and happy in this present moment. Why? Because I remember who I am. And I remember what my purpose is. And I get giddy when I'm in that state. I want to stay in that state. It says purpose has to do with the reason for a thing. Why did the creator create the thing? What's the purpose? You never ask the thing what its purpose is, but you always ask what? The mind of the creator. Why did you create what you created? Why did God extend himself? So that's what creation is. Creation is merely God extending himself. God taking his value and extended it everywhere. And when God said everywhere, that means what? There's no boundaries. So love is everywhere. God is everywhere. You can't get away. Even though Adam said, I hid myself and I was afraid. Love didn't go anywhere. When the prodigal son decided to take his inheritance from his father and leave his home, love didn't go anywhere. The father stayed home. Why? Because he knows that there is but one home, and that is in the heart of God. And we can only leave the heart of God in dreams and vain imaginings and in hallucinations and in fantasies. And so the father never flinched. He said, son, you want what? You want your inheritance? He said, okay, I'll give it to you. And he gave it to the son. And not only did he give the prodigal son his inheritance, but he also at the same time gave the older son who decided to stay home his inheritance, just in case the older son wanted to try out. But the oldest son, he said, no, I'm staying here with my papa. and avoided what? The riotous living, avoided what? Ended up in what? Eating the pig's food. But even in all of that experience, all of that trauma, all of that seeming, creating something for oneself, it didn't change reality. Because when the son came to himself in that state that he was pretty much like Adam, naked and afraid, he said, I'm going back home to my daddy's house. I made an error. I made a mistake. He came to himself. He recognized that he had tried to substitute his reality for unreality. But little did he know is that he could not change his reality. He could only dream of changing his reality. And so when he returned to his father's house and made this statement that, hey, Dad, I'm going to come back. I'll be one of your servants. He thought he had lost his identity. And the father said, no, my son, that's impossible. See, he had what? When you dream of separation, you develop a low, very low self-image of yourself. You devalue what is priceless. You attempt to, but love is always present. See, everything is done in the backdrop that love is present. All this happens in the presence of love. And love never flinches. And so why or for what reason or for what purpose did God extend his love? And when he extended his love, he said, oh, that is very good. That is I am that. I am. And that's what he did in creation. Extended himself, and he called it what? The I am. And that is who we are. That which he extended. So everything that God is, we are. Everything that we are, God is. And we have to remember that. Otherwise, we will fabricate a self-image of ourselves that is so antithetical to our reality. And that's the waking up that we're going through, and the transformation we're going through here in this life we've been given here on earth. And God say the way it is in heaven is the way it is on earth. You just have to open your eyes and come into the awareness of it. And so let us remember the reason. Let us remember the reason for which we exist, to be the glory of God. Paul picked it up in Ephesians when he said, we are to the praise of his glory. That's the purpose. Jesus said it this way. He says, what? You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before all humanity. Don't put it on a bushel. Don't take a lamp and put it up on a bushel. No, but you put it up on the candlestick so that everyone can what? Be enlightened. Everyone can see that love is present. That love is present, and there is nothing else. So you see the value that your life is. And then he said, go and give it as you have received. Give out unto you. And that's what this whole platform was developed for. This whole Truly Foundation where we teach advanced spirituality. We developed this for that reason. To give freely as we have received. And we're just using this modality called A Course in Miracles. It's not the only modality. It's not the modality. No. It's just an aid that God has given unto us. Just like there's a lot of aids. There's thousands of them. Some of them, though, you have to pull it out of a story, or you have to read between the lines, or you have to what? You have to know how to what? Eat the meat and spit out the bones. I love the course because it's meaty. I have yet to find a bone. You go to the restaurant and you say, well, I like to have some wings. And they say, would you like to have them boneless? So the course is like a boneless entree. With a boneless chicken, you can just bite right through it. You don't have to worry about a bone. You don't have to be careful. You don't have to, you can eat the whole thing. You don't want to be eating bones. That could be very painful. That's why I love the course. Of course, I love the course. And I love other modalities. I'm not one-dimensional. I'm full spectrum. God said he's given us life and he's given it more abundantly for us to richly to enjoy. But you can't really enjoy it from a false identity. You can't really enjoy it with a self-image of yourself that doesn't align and that is not in harmony with your true identity, the real you that loves you. I got to get going. I got to get going here. So let me wrap up this lesson. So let me remember, this is a reminder to ourselves. Let me remember what my purpose is. You're having a talk with yourself. If I forget my goal, I can be but confused. If I forget, I can be confused. Forgetfulness brings on confusion. Notice now, God is not the author of confusion, but forgetfulness is. That's why he said, remember, do this in remembrance of me. If I forget my goal, I can be but confused. And not only confused, but unsure of what I am. See, unsure about my identity. The world is filled with billions that are confused about what they are or who they are. Unsure about who they are and confused about what the goal is, what the purpose is. So all that we see in the world that is chaotic, all that we see in the world that is, like they say, unprecedented, all that we see in the world that is insane, it is the effect of what? It's the effect of forgetting what the goal is, what the purpose is. It's the effect of confusion. It is the effect of being unsure about ourself. The I am, the one self that we share with God and with each other. That is the root of the problem. That is the root of the problem. We only have one problem, and that's the belief in separation. And as a result of the belief in separation, we have forgotten what our purpose, what our goal is. We have become unsure about who we are. See, always about identity. Always. Every problem is about identity. Every suffering, every pain, every discomfort has at the root an identity issue. That's why this course is all about our perception. It's all about the shift in our perception, how we are interpreting ourselves and everything around us. If we're interpreting things from a space or a foundation of separation, if we are interpreting things from a belief that we are separate from God and each other, that oneness doesn't exist, then that perception, that self-image, is what the problem is. And it has its roots in what? We are unsure about our identification. Everything is about identification. The purpose of everything is about identification. God in his wisdom, even in all of the miscreation that we have participated in, all that we've made, this world that we have made, and the systems of this world that are based on separation and inequality. God said in all of that, in the wisdom of all of that, he's using all of this, the content of your life, the content of my life, the content of our relationships. There is a plan that is weaving a tapestry of your experiences, of your choices. God, in all of that, is working all of it together for your good. Even in our sleeping state, even in our unawareness, even in our lack of recognition, God is still working. The truth is still working to wake you up and to wake me up. And calling us back home. The memory of God came into this incarnation with us. Eternity is in everyone's heart. You don't have to wonder. No one is without God. We may act like we were without God. We may act as though we're separate from one another. We may place all these labels and all these weird man-made ideas in between our true reality in our in our humanity or our experience. But we are here to remove the blocks to the awareness that love is always present. We are here to remove the blocks to the awareness of your true identity, to your infinite self. We are here to remove the blocks to the awareness of your perfection, of your completion, of your wholeness, of your holiness, of your infinite, impersonal, and self-aware being. We're here to remove the blocks to the awareness that you have access to all the infinite intelligence there is. What has played out and what we have made in the world, where we see this imbalance and we see this inequality, and where we have all this history where man has acted foolishly to separate himself and oppress others. He's oppressing himself, but he don't know when you oppress others, you're oppressing yourself, because there's only one of us. When we put all these differences and made all these differences based on, all of these low vibrational things like race and gender and nationality. We built all these monuments of nothingness and placed them in between us and the awareness of the truth. And so it is through forgiveness that we lay these things aside. We release them because we see the folly of them. We see the folly of the idea. We see the trauma and the pain and the suffering of the idea that we made, and the self-image that we created as a substitute for our reality. We see the destruction that it brings about in one's experience. But fret not, it hasn't changed reality. Fret not. What seemed to be destroyed is not destroyed. What seemed to be lost is not lost. What seemed to be dead is not dead. There is no death. There is no sin. There is no separation. There's no multiple wills. There's only the one will of God, the one purpose of God. And when we align ourselves in harmony with God, with the laws of God, with the laws of love, you can't tell the difference. You can't tell where you end and love begins. You can't tell where there is any separation at all. All things are the one thing. When you get that mindset, then the light shines brighter. So, if I forget the goal, I am confused, I become unsure of what I am, and thus conflicted in my actions. See, it's always about your thinking and your perception, which will create feelings, will eventually create action. We can tell what you're thinking and what you're perceiving and how you're feeling by your action. Your actions tell it all. Our actions tell it all. Our results tells it all. They don't lie. Even if we deny them, they tell the story. But stories are temporary. Results are temporary. Because in heaven, there is no results. It just is. But while we're here, there's a purpose for being here. There's a reason why we're here. And that is to what? To demonstrate our reality, to be a reflection of reality, Those are results. And so no one can serve contradicting goals and serve them well. Jesus said it this way: no one can serve two masters. No one can live a duplicitous life and be happy. No one can get sweet water and bitter water out of the same fountain. In other words, he said this world that we live in is a world of polarity where there's opposites everywhere, up and down and in and out, and white, black, and cold and hot. He said, oh, that's temporary. But in reality, there is no polarity. There's only the one. There's only life. There's only love. There are no opposites in reality. But in this world of perception, there are polarity everywhere. Wow, because we made it that way. We made it that way through our wrong thinking, through our erroneous thinking. That's why the mind has to be transformed and through renewal. So that's why we constantly stay in our inner self, our inner verse, so that when we step out into this world of duplicity, our inner verse, our reality becomes our outer verse. And so we're walking now in harmony with the I am that we are. And like it said here, we are not serving contradicting goals. We're not living a duplicitous life. Our life began to reflect the oneness that we are. Our life began to reflect the I am, the one life that we share with God and with each other. We can't hold one grievance and walk in harmony with who we are. We can't hold one idea about anyone without holding it about ourselves. It says, nor can we function without deep distress and great depression. When we forget our purpose, when we become unsure about our identity, and when our actions don't reflect, don't line up. He says we can only only function in distress and depression. So no wonder you see so much distress and depression in the world. Why? Because our brothers and sisters, and we were there at one time. Listen, still on a daily basis, if we don't make the decision to remember, we can go back into it just like that. So I'm not talking specialness here. There is no special people. It's not the enlightened and the unenlightened. No, if we're looking at it that way, then we're just still participating in the same separation. No. Listen, until all of us wake up, none of us goes in to the experience of the completion. Until all of us wake up. And do you know what? When you wake up and really wake up, all humanity wakes up. Why? Because you realize there's only the one. See, it's a matter of having the mind of Christ. Let us therefore be determined. See, let us therefore. What is it there for? It's there for us to be determined. To remember what we want today. Because what we don't want is distress and depression. What we don't want is contradicting goals. What we don't want is conflicting action. What we don't want is uncertainty about our identity. And we definitely don't want to forget our purpose. We don't want confusion. So let us, therefore, be determined to remember what we want today, that we may unify. See? Here's the goal of transformation. Here's the goal of renewing the mind. Here's the goal of A Course in Miracles. It is the unification of our thoughts and action, meaningfully, purposefully. In other words, we should walk in harmony with our true identity, not just in thought and mind, but in our actions. So we should never, ever see anyone, or we will never see anyone any different than we see ourselves. But how are you seeing yourself? We will ever know anyone other than the way that we know ourselves. How are you knowing yourself? Who are you? Where are you? That's the question he was asking. Adam, do you see? Do you see what I see? Do you see how I see? He says, so that we may unify our thoughts and actions meaningfully and achieve only what God would have us do today. Father, what would you have us do? What would you have us be? Where would you have us go? To walk circumspectively. So whatever you do today, remember what the purpose is. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, but the purpose is more important. Because when you understand the purpose, your doing will be in line with your purpose. And it will be love only. It would be love only. So, in conclusion, to remember is not just to remember yourself, it's to remember God. It's to remember the truth. And so, Father, forgiveness is your chosen means for our salvation, for our happiness. Because salvation is your happiness. That's what the word salvation really means. It's all about your happiness. It's always been about your happiness. It's always been about your happiness. This whole dramatic big stage that we're on, it's about your happiness. What is happiness? Happiness is knowing that you have access to whatever for you to be what? The full expression of yourself. That's what happiness is. Happiness is knowing that there's nothing missing. There's nothing broken. And so forgiveness is God's chosen way. We've said this 1,000 times. The only way, the only plan to your happiness is forgiveness. What is forgiveness? Letting go of the idea of a false identity. Holding on to a self-image of yourself that you made up. That is insane. Let us not forget today that we can have no will but God's. There's only the one will. There's only the one purpose. We can't have any other will. And God's purpose for you is happiness. And thus our purpose must be God's as well. And it is. There's only the will of God. What is the will of God? That it be on earth, that it be in this experience that we're having as it is in heaven. Well, how is it in heaven? There's no lack in heaven. There's no sickness or disease in heaven. There's no duplicity in heaven. There's no judgment in heaven. There's no criteria in heaven. There's no black or white, brown or red. There's only oneness in heaven. There's no form and there's no what? There's no time in heaven. There's no beginning and ending in heaven. There's no life or death. There's no coming and going. There's no scarcity. There's no separation. There's no change in heaven. Heaven is eternal. Heaven is changeless. It's unalterable. There are no opposites, no beginning, no end. It merely is. The one will of God merely is, and we are part of that. So we merely is. I am merely is. Don't let your day be the I am merely is. The one will of God. And thus our purpose, our reason, your purpose, your reason is the same purpose and reason that God is. It must be yours as well, see? You are the purpose of God. You are the reason that God is. That's what Paul caught in Revelation, in Ephesians, when it says that we are to the praise of his glory. If we would reach the peace God wills for us, if we are going to really experience peace that passes understanding, if we're really going to experience that, and we are, it's not something in the future, it is something that God is calling to us right now. He said, if you are going to reach that, you're going to have to forgive. You're going to have to let go of this false image, this false idea of yourself. You're going to have to let go this inferiority complex that you've been hanging on to. He said, if you're going to be happy, you're going to have to know that there's only the one will. And that we stand in that one will with all humanity. Shining brightly, shining the one will, that letting the world know that love is always shining. And when we know this, where is depression? Where is sickness? Where is death? Where is lack? Where is any of these things that we see so prevalent that we have experienced ourselves? Where is it? It no longer present. It no longer exists. See, the whole time it was an illusion that we was dreaming up in our head. If we are to reach the peace that is God's will for us. So let us remember what our purpose is today and always. Why? Because it's vital. It's vital to our well-being, to the experience of our well-being. Because our well-being is intact. Our identity is intact. But like the Course says, why wait? Why wait for what is already here? Why be thirsty when you can drink the water that's right in front of you? Why be sad when the joy of the Lord is strengthening you? Let us remember. Do this in remembrance of me. Remember who you are and your purpose for being here. Your reason. You know how they say Jesus is the reason for the season. No, you are the reason for your season right now. And this is your season right now. You are the reason for it. It's the only season there is right now. There is no future season. If you be waiting for the future, or if you still held back, holding unforgiving thoughts about the past, you're missing out on the present. So remember today your purpose. And that purpose is what? Your happiness. Your experience of the love that you are. The real you that loves you. Why? Because the real you is love. And love is all there is. And here at Truly Foundation, we teach only love. Thank you so much. We'll be back on tomorrow. I'm out of here. I'm going to have some fun. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.